Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
Hey, everybody, welcome. Wait a minute. I don't know. Maybe I love you. I don't know. How to depolarize your family, business, country, and the world with my very special guest, longtime colleague. We're still kicking it up. James Twyman joining me here today because here's what I know. Let me give you the short version because this is a short show. But when I think about the word peace, I think of James. When I think about the many, many different ways he has emerged in this life and has put it all together into a, people refer to you, James, as a global force. I look at you as an ecosystem for peace. And that's what you have done. You've done it through music, you've done it through books, you've done it through podcasts, you've done it. And yet you're tapping into something that we've talked about quite a bit on this network. And that is polarization and what to do about it. But you see, you're coming here today with a new movement. And that new movement is calling for depolarization. And so I do believe that in all the things you've done, from what I know about, taking this on is almost like a new, fresh narrative for you. Welcome to the show. What do you think about that statement?
I think you're pretty accurate there, Dr. Pat. It is definitely new territory for me, but it's really all the same thing. And I like to say that it's about practicing many of the lessons that we learned in kindergarten. Be nice to each other, don't interrupt, little things like that, that if we could just put into practice, then we wouldn't have to try and depolarize and come back together because we would never really be that far apart.
Well, we wouldn't be polarizing to begin with.
That's right.
It's kind of like you crack open an egg. You get the yolk and you get the white. You have to go through a lot of effort to separate those two. And yet, here we are. Here we are.
Mm-hmm.
What was it that got your attention? I think I know what it was for me. I mean, I saw things happen post-COVID, during COVID, whatever we want to call it. But it emerged as this if Hawkins were here now and had to put this on his scale, right? He would be very interesting to talk to. But it's happening. Families. I had a colleague of mine have to move out of his his family house. So how did this hit you in a way where you said, I have got to start talking about this?
Well, oddly enough, I think talking to my own father had a lot to do with it. In fact, I just had a conversation with him maybe an hour ago, and I got pulled into that trap
I know it.
that I talk about a lot in this book, the book being the one that you mentioned, I don't know, maybe, I love you. And the way I describe it in that book is that it's the pandemic of being right. Everyone wants to be right about what they believe. And we can see that certainly in the COVID era. Everyone wants to be right about their opinion about what is or isn't happening or what should or shouldn't be happening. We can go back a little bit further to the elections and the polarization and the way that political people and pundits have been using the dynamics of fear to isolate us for the reasons of power, right?
Yeah.
So that the right people can be in power. And we've seen this progression ever since, and it's getting more and more dramatic as we go. So the book came about right before the presidential election last year. And I was on a concert tour on the East Coast, and I just began to talk to people about their opinions with Trump signs and Harris signs on every corner. It was a very interesting time for me, but I think you're right. It does go back not real far because it wasn't that long ago that we could have conversations with people, even if we didn't agree, we could still
Yeah,
respect one another. And
yeah,
what seems to be lacking today is a lot of respect.
yeah. What we're talking about, gosh, I guess I'm full of metaphors today. What we're talking about is the difference between taking a log. You could tell I live in the Pacific Northwest, right? Yeah, taking a big log and taking an axe and cutting it, or bringing in a splitter and split that thing right down the middle and nobody's business. Because I've been around, you've been around. I look, I've been on the streets fighting for rights, Stonewall, you name it. But I've never seen the immersion of polarization, even during Vietnam. I've never seen it happen so quickly. And let me ask you this question, because there's one item we didn't mention: money. Situation, friend of mine's, took care of her family member for decades, really helped her sister. Bottom line is, something happens, sister says, "You're not my sister anymore." What the bleep, James? Come
Yeah,
on now.
yeah. When I was just having this conversation with my father an hour ago, like I said, I kind of fell into that trap that I don't like to fall
I
into.
know.
Usually we just avoid topics because my father is much more conservative than I am, but I got pulled in. But I realized it, I noticed it and got myself out before it could get to any point like that. And I think that's important because we have to prioritize love over being right.
Yeah.
We have to prioritize just connection rather than being the authority. But today, being right about whatever it is we think we're right about is seems to be so important. Even the algorithms of our social media and everything else, it promotes this because it only shows us what we already believe. If I go on to, say, YouTube and I search for something on COVID because I am supportive of whatever, it's going to only give me information on that from them. I'm not going to hear the other side. And I think that something needs to open up, but I'm very optimistic. I think that
Me
maybe
too.
all of this that's going on is just leading us closer to the possibility of breaking through and coming together, maybe in ways that we haven't done in a long time.
I agree with you completely. Going through the process of this, what do they say sometimes? The journey is more important than the end game. Well, at least my research says that in a number of different ways. But what do I mean by that? There's a journey that we get to take, and how we go through that journey is going to, somebody asked me, James, why are these people leaving the planet now? Diane Keaton was the latest. And I said, like, I don't have a crystal ball. I mean, I can't tell you. Call Mark Anthony, maybe he can tell you. But, what I basically have said is this has been a tough journey here. Families have broken up, the loss, the grief, friends, friendship. I want to ask you this question because your book talks to this. There's a divide. I don't know if I even want to call it political anymore, because let me just tell you this silly story. You ready? It's silly, but it's cool. I play table tennis, better known as ping pong, and I play pretty dang good. All right. So I'm playing last night, right? Playing with my friend Benny. I'm the only one that, I don't speak Korean. So everybody else speaks Korean. But we're playing together. So there was this one shot, and we were beating this team like, forget it. Two girls beating these two guys, right? That just doesn't, yeah. There's one shot, and it hit my partner's bat. It didn't hit the table. Now, I watched the escalation of this. I'm telling you, thank God I do what I do, and you do what you do, because we have moments where that could turn into a full-blown riot in multiple languages.
Oh, yeah.
And I just said to my partner, I said, give him the point. Just give him the point. And we both backed up and we gave them the point. and we went on with the game.
Yeah. Wisdom. That was wise.
But you see, that's a metaphor for maybe, I don't know if that's denial for me, but what if we would just hold back for a
Mm.
minute?
Well, I'll tell you the story really quickly of how the
Sure.
title of the book came,
Yeah.
because it's definitely related to what that story, which I think is hilarious. By the way, where in the Northwest are you?
I'm in the Seattle area.
Okay, well, I'm in Portland, so
That's
let's
right.
let's meet in the
Oh,
middle. We'll have a good table tennis tournament.
you know what? I'm supposed to go down here and play, but we could talk about that offline. Or you come up here. We got a brand new club in Redmond. Oh my gosh.
I have a feeling I'm not in your league.
Don't worry. I'll play with my left hand. Just joking. But tell me
So,
your story.
yeah, I was on the phone with my brother. I have a younger brother who loves to argue with me, and it's usually good fun. But in this particular day, it was around the beginning of COVID. Was winning, and so I just said to him, "Kenny, listen, I don't know. Maybe I love you, man." And it just ended the argument like that.
Yeah.
And he said later, I hate when you do that. How can I argue with you when you do that? And that's true. You can't argue with someone when there's nothing to push up against. And I thought about that a lot. In fact, I gave quite a number of talks using that as the subject. And afterwards, I would hear people mimicking that. Days later, they say, I don't know, maybe I love you. And I thought this is interesting. There's something
Yeah.
here. I At that time, however, I had decided that I was not going to write any more books because many reasons. But I was on this tour that I mentioned. I was in New Hampshire. I was having dinner with my friend Walt and his wife, and I didn't realize that his wife Anne owns a publishing company. I said, I'm not going to write any more books, but if I did, this is the book. And I told her the story about my brother. And she said, if you write that book, I will publish it because we need this conversation
Yeah.
so desperately. And that's when I just began traveling on this tour, talking to people. And I had so many interesting people that I met or that I knew already. For example, someone who is probably my best friend in the whole world that I've known for 30 years. I show up at her house in New Jersey, and this is someone, by the way, who you ask anyone who knows her, they will tell her she is the most loving, spiritual person that they've ever met. And so imagine my surprise when I find out that she is a very avid Donald Trump supporter.
I know it.
I don't want to.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we all have people like that in our lives that surprise us. And I don't mean to offend anyone who is a Donald Trump supporter, but this was a big surprise to me. And yet,
Well, I think to your point, it doesn't matter whether it's Trump supporter, a Harris supporter, a goddess Athena supporter. What we're being is surprised. People are surprised when they hear me talk about where I stand on things, right? They're like, "You? What you?"
yes,
And I'm
that's
like,
right.
why you got to put me in a category? I'm just talking about a little bit of my value system. Don't put me in a category.
Yeah.
But you see, what we're talking about here is it doesn't matter who you're for or you're against. We're picking to be for or against. That's what we're choosing now.
Hmm.
That's it. You want to talk about apples? No, I want to talk about peaches, James. But today you and I are talking about the same thing. So isn't it fascinating how we're being surprised? But what did you do with that, James?
Well, we just listened to one another and we got curious, which I believe that those are the two most important things that we need to learn again in this depolarizing movement, to listen and to
Mhm.
be curious. I felt an immediate reaction, like, how is it possible? But I held that back and I said, tell me more.
Yeah.
Why do you feel this is appropriate? Why are you supporting this person? And I held back my own need to be right. And I considered that, like the title says, I don't know. The truth is, none of us know anything for sure. For
No.
all I know, what is happening in the world may be the exact thing that needs to happen for us to finally break through and come together. Maybe if I listen to someone like my friend, I'll learn something that I didn't know before. But we have to have love and compassion at the core, or we're not going to go anywhere either way. So I did. I just listened to her. It did not challenge our friendship one iota. We just tease each other about it. And I tease my brother as well. If it's good-natured fun, then it brings us closer together rather than what I felt the potential of in my conversation with my father today, which I stopped luckily, the potential to
Yeah.
push us further apart.
I was on a panel and I made a statement, and boy, was that so misdirected to your point, right? I was on a panel and I said something like, we must, I can't remember my exact words, but I didn't say it smiling. So you can only imagine this girl from the Bronx when she says something not smiling. So it was kind of like, come hell or high water, we must preserve the Alaskan culture. Everybody thought that, like, what are you talking about? Are you talking about greening? And I'm like, I didn't even get to explain myself, and the panel erupted and started to fight with each other. It reminded me of my dissertation of defense when all of the faculty members were fighting, and I just sat there. And so I just sat there and I waited till till they were done. And I came back and I said, "Would you like to know my answer?" And you could hear a pin drop. And I said the word culture. The Alaskan people, the people that homestead there, they've learned how to survive. They've learned how to do things that is so respectful and honorable. Now, if you want to turn that into a conversation about greening the earth, that's great. But I want to talk about the people. Let's talk about the people. They share with each other. Their resources are skim. They will share pelts. They will share food. They will share fish. They will share their boats. They share.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
boy, that was a 20-minute panel explosion. And I sat there and I just like, I didn't even get red face, James.
I think it was just yesterday I was talking to someone and they reminded me of a study where they were looking at a particular African culture, a very remote village where in the morning all of the women from the village would bring their laundry to the river. And they would all be together, and then they'd spend an hour or two washing together, talking about what was going on in the village, sharing ideas, and then they would go home. And it was a very, very culturally healthy town.
Yeah.
Well, then lo and behold, they got electricity. Next thing you know, they had conveniences like their own washing machines or whatever it may be. And this culture at the river stopped, and the health of the community went down
Yeah.
because there was no more communication. They didn't have the opportunity that they had before to come together. And I think this is an example of what we see happening certainly in the United States and around the world. We're not coming together. We're coming together only with the people who agree with us. And
Yeah.
this is those little bubbles are not healthy. We need to listen. We need to be curious. There are times I have to say when we have to take a stand. This is what caused the interaction with my father today. I kind of took a stand on the whole ICE issue. See, because I'm in Portland, he was saying, "Don't go downtown in Portland. It's a
Yeah.
war zone." Like
I
that.
get that all the time.
It's not. You're listening to these people who have agendas. I could walk downtown right now and it'd be fine.
I know, me too. But look, every time my friends say that, then they look at me and say, "Oh, wait a minute, you're a Harley riding girl from the Bronx." I said, "Yeah, but that's not the point." Now, I want to take a minute, James, because there's so much to talk about. But let's let people know how to get the book, because this is a book to pass on. I almost see this book as being used in a conversation or circle with those people like you and I just described, right? But how do we get the book? And then I want to ask you how we get there. And what I mean by how we get there, are you sending a copy of the book to Donald, to who we sending the book to? But how do we get a copy of the book?
Okay, well, you can get it anywhere, Amazon, but what I would suggest is go to our website, which is de-polarize, so depolarize with a dash.com. And you can, of course, link there to get the book, but there's also a like 1 or 2 minute long survey that we ask people to take. that's giving us the information that we need to continue this movement,
Hmm.
because this really is a movement. We want to have thousands and hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people out there who are saying, we want to be depolarizing agents. We want to be part of this movement to bring people back together. So I don't know, maybe I love you. You can go to de-polarize.com. And what was your second question
Well,
again?
and my question is, let's just talk about this from fun way. Now I'm going to get 100 emails, I can guarantee you, because I didn't say President Trump, but I just want to give everybody an update. I worked with President Trump when I was at AT&T, and back then he was Donald, and we were doing space at his convention. So yes, he is President Trump, and I will always have respect for the people in the highest office in the land. But my question is more fun. You got this book. I'm going to give you 3 people to send it to. I know this is not one of the questions I'm supposed to ask you, but you got the book. If you had to pick 3, I know my 3, but if you had to pick your 3, who would you send the book to? You can only do 3.
Knowing that they would get it. You're not
Let's
just
assume the magical delivery system that isn't made yet will get it to them.
okay.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, obviously. Let's say the Speaker of the House, what's his name?
Well, the old speaker,
No, the one that's today, the Republican. I can't remember. Is Johnson or
yeah.
anyway,
You'd
the
send it to the. Okay.
Speaker of the House.
Okay.
And maybe the leader of the Democratic Party as well, because this is not about, one side. Because we all do it. The
It's
Democrats
not.
left do it just as much as the right. Maybe not just as much, but this is a problem on just sides itself. Why do we have to have such separated sides? Why can't we come together for the common good? It really comes down to power. People want to have the power, they want to have the office, and they'll do anything to get it, including go against their own values.
Yeah.
And so I'm a priest, I'm a Franciscan, and for me, this is just about doing what my teacher,
Yeah.
Jesus, taught me to do, which is to serve people, to love everyone, to do good to those who hate me, bless those who curse me. So I say to the people who claim to be Christian, be a Christian. Follow the wisdom of Jesus. Don't follow the wisdom of the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or whoever it is you're listening to online. Do what you say you are, because if you do that, the rest will take care of itself, because that will lead to compassion. That will lead to understanding and peace. But if we just continue this bipartisan way, saying that we're something but doing the opposite,
Hmm.
then we're going to get the opposite of what we
Yeah.
really want, which
I
is,
love that you said that. Believe me, I got kicked out of Catholic boarding school because I actually spoke to Jesus when I was 6. But I had a conversation, I'm not going to mention a name, with one of the leading, most popular ministers, non-denomination ministers of our time. I had this conversation with him a while back. And I said to him, I said, I listen to your sermons. I'm not going to apologize that people think you're from the New Thought movement. I know you made it clear you're not. But I got to ask you a question. I don't understand. I'm confused now. Growing up as a Baptist mom and a Catholic, blah, 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 whatever. I said, I'm confused now. How are you talking so much about this abundant, positive Jesus, God universe? And yet, when you were asked a question about gay people, you choose to judge them.
hmm,
How do you do that if you tell the world that that's not our role? That Jesus and God forget his people stepped in and ended the interview. So I never did get an answer for that question, but I still do communicate with them. You see, in your book, what I take away, judgment is something we have, but we have to put the cork in the bottle for
hmm,
at least 30 seconds to get to love,
yeah, that's it.
right?
We have to lay aside our judgment because our judgment is separation. Judgment is what separates us because judgment leads to right or wrong. You're doing this the way I want you to, or you don't. And the pandemic of being right is the biggest issue that
It's
we have
horrible.
today.
It's horrible.
And we really saw it amped up in the COVID time. Uh,
Mhm.
Everyone was right based on who they were listening to or who the authorities that they were respecting. But the truth is, as we said, I don't know. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. So I need to open up a
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
I need to listen to what other people are saying. But most of all, I need to come from a place of love and compassion
Yeah.
because if I'm not, then who cares?
It's
None of it matters.
None of it does matter. I love that we're talking about this. I know that we're coming to the end of our conversation here, but it's a very important one. And I want to thank you for showing up. And I want to thank whoever Ann is for really encouraging you to write the book because we have to, we need a do over, a do over. Like in ping pong last night, we didn't even do a do over. We just yielded and said, you have the point. But that enabled us to continue and play a game we loved. See, if we didn't do that, that would have turned out to be a polarization in the simplest, honestly, funnest game on the planet. If we could only do that in our lives, James, thank you for today. And I want to ask you, please give out the website, and I'd love to hear your personal message for today.
Well, once again, if people want to take this survey, I would really recommend it. It really helps us. Go to de-polarize.com. So depolarize with a little dash. And my message is simple. Let's lay aside our need to be right about anything and be loving. Let's make that the priority. Let's be compassionate. Let's come back together. Because if we keep going in the direction that we are, it's not going to last much longer. And but we can come back together if we prioritize the fact that I don't know. Maybe you're going to teach me something, but I love you no matter what. That's my message.
I love it. And I want to leave everybody with this. Y'all know Mama Doris was one of the first non-denominational Baptists, my stepmom, non-denominational positive Christians that I know of. And here's what she would say. Remember when Jesus went out of his way to go to Samaria. Remember, he walked up to a well. Remember, he spoke to a woman who was so less than in the eyes of so many people. She wasn't at the top of what we would call a value system. She had many, many lovers, but he walked up to her. And he did something that James is talking about. She became the first person he revealed to that he was the Messiah. Not his friends, not his compatriots, but a woman from another land who couldn't believe he was even talking with her. And if he can do it and she can do it, there ain't a political system in the world, folks, that can stop us, right, James?
Amen. I love
All
it.
right. I love that story. Thank you all for tuning us in. Please, please join this movement. We'll see you next time.